Welcome everyone to the Added Time Football Podcast. We're back with another episode. Consistency seems to be our problem, but that will be fixed within the upcoming weeks and days. We tend to go for one video per week, but when there is no news to talk about or share our opinions on, we tend to kind of be down. But we've got plenty to talk about this week. So without any further ado, let's get started.
All right. Well, because we have a limited time to work with, we're going to be talking about our clubs in specifically, so Chelsea and Liverpool. And then we're going to be talking about the big transfer rumors in the world right now. And we'll start with Chelsea. So obviously over the past couple weeks, we've had Kai Havertz links going on. Looks like it should happen. But every day it seems like there's more and more news about it. Something happening. It's either good or bad. I don't know. What can you say about Kai Havertz and what he'd bring to Chelsea, maybe, or what's your opinion?
I think it's more of what can I not say about Kai Havertz, because he's the full package, honestly. Offensively, and I've heard that even defensively he can get the job done, but I don't think that's the reason Chelsea are bringing him, but that's a plus side to him. He is able to defend. Most people that I've heard, like even me, I was agreeing, maybe once they bring him in, they'll change back to a 4-2-3-1. But you've talked to me about it, and you've said that his best position is within the 8 and 10. So if they keep that 4-3-3, I'm expecting to see him, Mason Mount, and their rotation in that. I'm also excited to see what happens with Kovacic and Kante. Obviously, Kante's been linked with the move away, but I mean, as a Chelsea fan, I may not be a Chelsea fan, but I know a lot of Chelsea fans. I know when to appreciate a player, and Kante is definitely a player that Chelsea can appreciate. So it might be one of those things it might be hard to let go of Kante, but at the end of the day, you want to do what's best for the club. But Kante kind of underperformed last season with injuries, but we know he's still a quality central defensive midfielder, which could make it hard for Chelsea to let him go. So, and then Kovacic just came off the best season for Chelsea. So, and I've discussed with you privately. He told me that he can't play central defensive midfielder. So, I'm excited to see that rotation if Kai Havertz comes in, their midfield rotation, and what it means for the lower ranked players. Well, not lower ranked within talent, but just when it comes to having Kai Havertz on the sheets, names like Ross Barkley, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, even though he's very talented, we might not see a lot of. But I do know that when it comes to youth, Chelsea is very persistent, and Ruben Loftus-Cheek is definitely there for the future. But as for Ross Barkley and others, I don't really know. But as you said many times, for Chelsea fans, this is an exciting time. It's a new era. That's pretty much all I have to say about Kai Havertz and midfield situation.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of Chelsea fans on Twitter talking about our potential rotation, and I just don't see us dropping Kovacic after the season he had. I don't see us dropping Mason Mount because he's probably our best system player, and he's, obviously he's like Frank's son. He's our best system guy. I don't see him or Kovacic getting dropped just based off of the seasons that they just had. But also, our midfield rotation is very limited, and Kai Havertz out wide, I'm guessing, with, Hakim Ziyech coming into the club, and that right flank is going to be all his unless Kai Havertz does rotate it on the right. But I think, Kai Havertz, I'm pretty sure, has said himself that his best position is like an attacking 8. And I think that that's probably what we'll see him playing. I don't see us going back to 4-2-3-1. I think that primarily next season we'll see, our 3-4-3 or 3-4-2-1, whatever it is, and our 4-3-3 formation most of the time, with Kovacic or Kante potentially playing that holding midfield role. And Kovacic, while he might not have played that a lot this year, I think that will probably be his spot next year. I think that he could flourish in that role. He'd have pretty much, he'd be connecting the defense to the midfield. He can still carry the ball all on his own like he does so well. He completes most dribbles in Europe for midfielders, I'm pretty sure, and some of the most in the Premier League, if not the most in the Premier League. I know he's up there with the Dama Traore and Saint-Maximin. But, yeah, you just don't drop them. And Kai Havertz he's not coming in to be on the bench, especially with the money that we're going to be spending on him. I'm guessing, it's going to be a record transfer. But it's really exciting to see what we're going to do attacking-wise next season with all this talent that we have. Obviously, Willian and Pedro are leaving, which to me, it's very sad, but, I think it's their time. Willian is going to where all Chelsea players go to retire, and, Pedro is going to Roma, and I like that move for him. Both of them have been excellent servants to the club. I'll thank them for forever. I'm glad to have been a Chelsea fan during their era, and I've always backed them, as you know. But with Timo Werner coming into the club, who's just a certified goal scorer, you're going to get goals out of him. Just the way he plays, his speed, everything, it's you're going to get goals. Hakim Ziyech, it's exciting to see how he'll combine with the attack, how he'll combine with Christian Pulisic, who has been excellent since the restart. And even before that, he's been really good. Took him a little bit to settle in, but ever since he has, he's been on the ground running. But, yeah, it'll be really exciting to see this Chelsea team next year. But that's just Kai Havertz. Obviously, as everybody knows, I think this is the most Premier League goals we have conceded since the 1995 season, which is before the Abramovich era. And everybody knows, we've had our defensive frailties. We know that Frank Lampard might not be the best coach when it comes to defense, but he's an inexperienced coach, and, with that comes some issues at the start. But we all have to place our trust in Frank and know that he's going to do the right things for the club, because we saw some really exciting, positive football this season on the attacking end. And we see that Frank Lampard isn't afraid to change things up. Last season with Sarri, we saw one formation, one system the entire year. Frank Lampard, we've seen multiple things. We've seen us play possession, have 70, even 80% of the ball in some matches. In other games, we're getting 30, 40, but we're still scoring, 2 or 3 goals. Frank is, he's a system guy, but I do think maybe it would help to get somebody to come in and help him defensively, coaching-wise. But I do think that some players do need to leave the club defensively, and some players need to come in. And out of all of our left-back options that we have talked about, who, in your opinion, is the guy that Chelsea should be going for?
There's plenty of options, in my opinion. I'm gonna butcher his name, but I've talked to you about it. Reguilon, I think
Sergio.
that's how it's pronounced.
We'll say Sergio.
Sergio, yeah, we'll go with that way. For Sevilla, on loan from Real Madrid, super talented. He's very talented. He's talented moving forward and coming back. I've watched a little bit of him in Europa, and he's very involved within the offense of Sevilla, and he's very good at tracking back. Jesus Navas is also, they play a lot through their wingbacks, which is nice to see. Jesus Navas was at a point their most attacking-minded wingback, because I don't know by name their past left back, but I didn't really see anything of him as Sergio comes into the team, and it almost seems like a different defensive side, especially on the left-hand side. He's been working wonders there, and I do think he's a talented player. I also think I want to say he's the cheapest option, but with his performance with Sevilla, that could change. But as of now, I believe he's the cheapest option. And with this cheapest option, it's not like you're not getting a quality player. Honestly, I think Chelsea, with all the left backs they have shortlisted, they cannot miss. Like any one of the left backs they get will be the right move. But in my opinion, Sergio is the better left back to get.
Yeah. I know that Frank Lampard wants Ben Chilwell, and if we do end up splashing a lot of cash on Chilwell, I probably won't be too angry, but also I know that there were other players that we could get. Chilwell and Reguilon or Sergio are probably my favorite options just because of age, and I know we're going to get the most out of them from the future. But say if we go for a guy like Tagliafico, who's kind of come back in the rumors, I wouldn't be disappointed. I know he's an excellent left back. I know he's pretty good at going forward. He's very solid defensively. But when it comes to Sergio, I've seen his highlights, and he is a brilliant player. He was voted best left back in La Liga. He can get the balls into the box. If we get guys like Kai Havertz, who is known for his heading ability, not known for it, but he's very good at heading the ball because of how tall he is. He can jump. Timo score headers. Tammy Abraham, who's 6'3", 6'4", or whatever, however tall he is, he can get his head on those balls. And if we have guys on the left and right, Reece James and him, who can ping those balls into the box and are good going forward, and we know that Sergio is good defensively as well. He is a good tackler. He might not be so good in the air because of his height, but Reece James has his defensive issues, but I probably Sergio is my favorite option out of all the options, but Ben Chilwell I also really like as a player, but it just depends on the price. I guess will decide that for me. But that's just the left back position. Obviously, we know that that's going to get covered. I'm not too worried about the left back position because all the players we've been linked with have been class. But I think, the center back position and the goalkeeping positions are obviously the big questions at the moment. Not a ton of players have been heavily linked to the club besides Declan Rice, who we know apparently Frank Lampard does want to convert into a center back. But out of all the options you've heard from Declan Rice, John Stones obviously has been pretty heavily linked actually as of late. Lewis Dunk, all these guys. Who is probably maybe your favorite combo of players that you want coming to Chelsea FC?
Well, again, most of the topics we bring to the table, we discuss privately. So
yeah,
but we don't go into depth as we do. So when we talked about this yesterday, I was laughing a little bit because you were talking about John Stones, and it was just funny given your previous history of John Stones because he came from being team of the season or not team of the season caliber. He was in the team of the season, and then the next year he just fell completely off the face of Manchester City's defense. And so to see that he's linked with Chelsea, I don't think too many people have too many complaints about it because he's still a quality center back. He's very, very good in the air.
£20 million. That's a really good deal if we can get it.
Especially at times like this. I don't think John Stones would be worth 45 million, but you're still getting a great caliber player at center back and decently young, not too old.
Really good age for a center.
Is he prone to mistakes? I don't really know because I don't really watch Manchester City like that. I refuse to watch it. But I do believe that with
just on John Stones, I know I clowned him because defensively he does make errors and, he kind of gets ahead of himself sometimes. He tries to do back heels or Rabonas down the pitch or something. He is he's a player who's very confident in his ability with the ball at his feet. And we do have a guy at the club like that with Andreas Christensen, who's actually the second Chelsea graduate to get 100 appearances for the club, right there up with John Terry, which is pretty crazy to think about. But, yeah, John Stones really good with his feet. He's really good in the air. We saw that in the 2018 World Cup. We've seen that with Manchester City a bit. He's really good when I don't know if maybe Christensen leaves the club and we bring him in for 20 million. I'm not going to complain. But, yeah, continue with what you were saying.
I was thinking about it. It's a good upgrade for Chelsea because right now their defenders, I'm not going to say they're bad, but they're not cutting it. In my opinion, they don't complement each other. You have a center back / right back, and Azpilicueta who's really good at tackling. You have a center back in Zuma who's a big presence. He's good at clearances. He's good aerially. You have a center back like Christensen, who, like you said, is very good with his feet. He's good at pinging in balls. Long balls, short balls, it's the same. He's a very good passer, and he's good when coming up on the field. And then you got Rudiger, who's a mixture of all of that, also good with passing. And then at left back, you have Alonso, who's very attacking-minded and not very defensive-minded. Emerson, I don't know. I truly don't know about Emerson. He's come off such a promising season and then just
Well, yeah, it wasn't
buckled.
towards like the latter half of the season last year that he did start to see some game time. And then at the beginning of the season, he looked like the favorite left back and he started playing really well. And then his form just fell off a cliff. He started not featuring for us anymore. And yeah, it's a really interesting story with him. I know he's apparently requested a transfer request, and he's gone this season for sure. No way we keep him, but yeah, continue.
But to answer your question as to what I see as a partnership, I would like that John Stones, and I would like to move Azpilicueta more to center back because I like Reece James a lot. I like Reece James. He's very promising. He's almost like Azpilicueta, like in the sense of attacking, because those two are very crucial when it comes to crossing from wing backs in Chelsea's game. But Reece James is a little more pacey, and I would Azpilicueta, like I said, I'm pretty sure this season he led in tackles for Chelsea.
Yeah, I think he might have led the Premier League in tackles, actually. I know he was up there in tackles. Maybe not led the Premier League, but he was top 5, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, I'll
Yeah,
look it up.
but I do want to see him more centrally because I feel like a right back. I mean, there are right backs who, like, I'm not saying that it's not good for a right back to tackle, but I feel like in this day and age we've kind of passed fullback era and we're moving into the wing back era where you need to have
He
more
was 10th.
attacking. 10th, okay, in the Prem, but first for Chelsea.
Yeah.
Okay, but yeah, and then you have John Stones, who's good with his feet, good aerially, and he's a good tackler. You have Azpilicueta, who's good going forward. He's good at tackles. He's very physical for his height. Um, I do like that, and we've seen what he's capable of at center back. Chelsea were pretty much Premier League champions both times he was center back. Um, I like it, but like I said, um, that's my duo for them. I feel like that would be the most beneficial duo for them. Or if I was to go, I don't want to say the more unrealistic side, but I'll say that for now. If I was to go, like, let's say we weren't in these times of money being a problem, which for Chelsea, luckily for them, money is not their biggest issue at the moment. Like, yeah, every team would like to save some money, but if Chelsea have to go out and buy a player for 50, 60 million, they will. Um, so Declan Rice, obviously we've talked about him too. I would like to see a partnership of Declan Rice and Azpilicueta or even Zuma in center back. But there is one thing that we can confirm. Yeah, there's one thing we can confirm though is that there are certain center backs that are going to leave, and I think if I had to choose, I don't think they're going to let go of two, but for me, it's between Christensen and Rudiger to leave for Chelsea.
Yeah.
They're not bad, but their performance this season was just it won't cut it under Frank Lampard.
I guess, yeah. Well, right when the restart happened, Christensen looked like our best center back. He played really well, really good game against Manchester City, and then he kind of fell off. And then Zuma, in these last few games, has looked really good, and he's been like by far our best center back. The problem with us is we haven't had a consistent center back pairing, and also we've had a really keeper, and that just doesn't result in very. And I guess part of that can like consistent defensive from him, but also you can't have about that yet. I think that if two players like Declan Rice or John Stone beat, I don't think that there's a need for Christensen at the club for anymore, and I think we can get a pretty good fee for him to fund bringing in other players to the club. And Rudiger, even though he's done really well, being an agent, bringing in, helping players like Kai Havertz come to the club, and obviously Timo Werner. He's definitely been our worst center back out of the few that we've had this year. I'd say he's been worse than, Tomori's had his issues, his ups and downs in form, and he's also been injured a bit, so Tomori's the guy for the future. I think he could go out on loan this year, maybe to Premier League club to go get some top-end experience, but I think that Rudiger is Yeah, I think that we should probably offload Rudiger just because he doesn't combine well with any of our center backs. He doesn't seem confident. He does some things in games that is just so questionable. Like against West Ham, I just remember he kicked the ball out for a corner when nobody was pressuring him. He had all this room to operate, and he might have been being pressed a little bit, but he kicked the ball out for a corner, and they scored off of the corner, and we ended up losing that game. I don't want Rudiger at the club anymore, if I'm going to be completely honest. But if I'm going to get into my center back pairing for next season, I do love Declan Rice as a dude, and you know that. But also as a player, I think he's an extremely talented player. We could even see him in the midfield next year if we did buy him. I know that Frank Lampard, he has prioritized Declan Rice, I'm pretty sure, along with Ben Chilwell, after we get the Havertz deal across the line. I think that is priority number one at the moment. But it's kind of fantasy football because of how much money we're going to be spending. But I think that we probably do have that money, and especially with FFP being relaxed and being a joke, doesn't even really matter. But I think I also really do like the idea of Lewis Dunk coming to the club, which has been a rumor as of late. You also know how much I like Lewis Dunk. I think he's an extremely well-rounded center back in the Premier League. He's good with his feet. He's a good tackler. He's tall. He's physical. He's strong. Everything you need in a center back. He's consistent. It's what I think this Chelsea team needs. We just need a center back, and even if that does mean, I think he would be a Zuma replacement if Zuma left the club. The idea of Aspili moving into center back, like it's interesting, but you have to realize like when Aspilicueta has been playing center back, it's been a right center back and a back three, so he hasn't been playing too centrally. And when he's featured at center back for us this season, he's also been playing as a right center back and a back three, and we've even seen him playing more offensive at the beginning of the season when he was playing in Reece James's current position in that back three, playing on like the right midfield. And I do love Aspilicueta, but I do think next year we're going to start seeing him feature less and less, just because even though he is our captain, he's a leader, maybe towards the back end of the season we'll start seeing him feature a little bit less. But I think if I had a preferred center back combo next season, I would really love if Lewis Dunk came to the club. I don't think he would be demanding a pretty decent fee. Maybe 30, 40, maybe even more. But he is a senior experienced center back, and that's what you get with those types of players. It's also a leader, and maybe Declan Rice or John Stones as his pairing. I think that John Stones should be an alternative if we don't get Declan Rice. But I do think that we'd have, if Ben Chilwell came, we'd have an all English back four. But maybe that's what we need, just for some chemistry. And we could have just a consistent back line with players coming in and featuring every once in a while. But if players are to leave the club, I would say maybe Andreas Christensen if we do bring in a player like Declan Rice or John Stones. And definitely Rudiger, just because I don't think he fits in anymore. He's very quick, but some of his decision-making and defensive, errors is just, I think it's his time. But, yeah. Well, anything else you got to say about that center back position for Chelsea? Well, final thing for Chelsea is maybe the biggest emphasis this season, because we know that we won't have an option after this guy leaves. Kepa Arrizabalaga has had a dreadful season. I don't need to tell you that, but Kepa's been horrible this year. We've seen Willy Caballero coming in these past few games as our number one, and Willy Caballero can just not be relied on for an entire season. We saw that against Bayern. Obviously, his penalty that he gave to Bayern in the first 15 minutes, I believe it was. We do need to bring in a goalkeeper, and Kepa needs to be shipped out, whether it's 2-year loan or we're just selling him. We're going to make a loss regardless. But out of all the names that you have heard for the Chelsea goalkeeping position, whether it's Nick Pope, Andre Onana, even Oblak and Ter Stegen, who is, your favorite? Even though Ter Stegen's out of the question, he now signed a contract extension, Oblak. It was never going to happen. But, yeah, out of all the players, who would you say is your favorite to come into Chelsea as our goalkeeper next year?
I'm not even trying to be funny when I say this, but anyone, honestly, anyone, like even goalkeepers who aren't linked with Chelsea, I feel like would step up because here's the thing, at least they'll move. Like I'm looking right here. For 14 out of 47 of the goals conceded this season, he didn't move. That's 30%.
Yeah.
That is bad. That is bad
I remember when
for
I
a
told
keeper
you
to
that
not
stat.
move.
I remember when I told you that stat, you were
Appalled. Like,
yeah.
and the thing is, I remember Liverpool and Chelsea played in the second to final match for at least for Liverpool, and I believe for Chelsea. And we scored. It was 5-3. There was at least 3 goals that I think Kepa could like. We've discussed this. Virgil van Dijk should have easily scored a goal, but
Yeah.
Kepa got lucky, and Kepa watched that ball fly over his head and didn't do anything to the point where his own players were yelling at him. So honestly, I want to say anyone, but my personal opinion, because I'm used to thinking cheap because of Liverpool, but I would say Alphonso Areola because he's quality. He is quality. He's proven his worth at Real Madrid and PSG countless times again. That's another. I've heard that he's recently bought a house in London, so maybe he's looking for a move to the Prem. That would be a cheap option. But if I was to go for an expensive option, even even my expensive option, I don't think would be that expensive because like, we've discussed it, and I think Ajax's buying price is like 35 million
I
for
think
Andre Onana.
Nick Pope would be more expensive than Andre Onana for sure.
But. And that's my other option. Nick Pope, we've talked about it. He's Premier League experience. He's proven his worth at Burnley with a defense. A defensive, no disrespect to Burnley, but with a defensive line of Burnley to be second in clean sheet and be leading at first for most of the season. That's that's some good talent, and that's a good player right there. And though it might not be the same at Chelsea, Chelsea's is definitely a club that could be like, all right, you need defenders to support you, we got you. We'll go out, we'll buy a defender. Burnley will be like, you need a defender to get.
Having a bad back line in front of him, so wouldn't be losing.
So, honestly, all those options, I like them. But, man, if I had to pick one, I know I said Alfonso Areola, but as I list these options, it changes every time. I mean, I also like the Turkish guy, Fakir, but I think he needs to prove himself a little more. I don't think he should be worth 30 million like they reported. I think they should wait a little bit on that. He is talented, but I think they should wait to spend 30 million on a goalkeeper like that. But if I could choose one, might be biased, but I'll say Nick Pope because again he led second in clean sheets in the Premier League. He's Premier League experience, but I don't like that because in the Prem we tend to overprice a lot of players. I'm not like I don't know the official price of Nick Pope right now. Maybe Burnley they're realistic, but surely they're not going to let him go for cheap as he just got second in clean sheets in the entire Prem.
Guessing it'd be 40-50 million pounds for Nick Pope.
Yeah.
It's pretty hefty for a really good keeper.
Yeah, it is a hefty price, but it's worth it at this point. Like, again, Chelsea's not a team worrying about money right now. So, like I said, if they need to get something, they'll get it done. And goalkeeper, Lord knows, is something they need. Caballero is on his last limb, but and still outperforming Kepa, who is well under his age. But there's still time for Kepa. Just not in the Prem. Just not in the Prem.
Yeah. It's a bit unfortunate for Kepa. Just, being the most expensive keeper, he had this big burden to live up to. And it's unfortunate for him. I said that already, but, we saw, like, in the restart, or before the restart, the games, against Liverpool in the FA Cup when we beat you guys 2-0, he had an excellent game. He had, like, a triple save, and it looked like finally he looked like the keeper that we brought in. Everton, 4-0 clean sheet. He did his job, and then restart. Coronavirus hit, had a few months off, and he came back and looked like was probably in the worst form all season. Especially that Liverpool game just proves, and the change needed to be made. And Frank Lampard showed it that he doesn't trust him, and reportedly he hasn't trusted him almost the entire season. Even at the beginning of the season, I remember hearing those rumors. And maybe that also impacted him. But I think if you're a professional footballer, especially at the goalkeeper position, you just have to put that aside and you have to do your job. And he's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. But if I had a favorite, I would probably also say Nick Pope. Maybe we could bring him down to like 30 million for him. But they are Burnley. They don't have the opportunity to sell players that much. For that much very often. So I think that if they can get a good price for Nick Pope, they probably are going to do it. I'd say he's probably my favorite option because of the Premier League experience and because I've heard some things about Onana. Obviously, we've seen Onana as a talented keeper in the Champions League against us. He's made some really good saves, kept us from winning that game at the Bridge earlier this year. And I just know that he is prone to some errors, but he is a good keeper. But Nick Pope is probably my favorite just because he has some games where it's almost like an entire highlight reel. And he also has his errors, loses some concentration sometimes. We saw against Chelsea earlier this year at the Bridge, I'm pretty sure. Completely savable ball came toward him. It was like a header, and he just stood there and watched it go in. But we know his ability, and he's probably my favorite option out of all the keepers. But as you said, I would take just about anybody. I'd take, Ben Foster. He might be an older keeper, but he is a quality keeper. That game against Watford earlier this year that we had, I was shocked by some of the saves he's making and how good he was. But the goalkeeper position needs to be addressed, and something needs to happen there. But I know I trust, Frank. I trust Marina. I know that we'll make the right move, and I don't think that we should be afraid to spend a big fee on a keeper this time around. Again, I just think that we need to do it, and we just need to buy a keeper and get it over with and pray to God that he works out. And I think that Nick Pope is probably the safe option as well because we've seen him perform in the Premier League. And we've seen him perform in front of a pretty bad defense. But I think that's it for Chelsea, unless you have anything to add. Well, I think now we'll move on to your beloved club because we've talked about mine for quite some time.
Actually, I do.
Okay.
I saw a stat that was horrific.
Yeah.
Kepa has the lowest save percentage for goalkeeper in Premier League history. I thought it was I didn't know it was history.
48%? Around there?
51.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really bad. Really bad. I think his from outside the box is horrible too. Shots from outside the box is really bad. But yeah, I feel for Kepa, and I've backed Kepa actually, even throughout the season. I was always confident that maybe he could regain his form and prove his worth, but it's time. We gave him his chances. Frank Lampard doesn't trust him. We need to get him out of the club. And I still see a good keeper in there somewhere. There's a reason he's the most expensive keeper in the world. I think he's talented with his feet. He's an athletic goalkeeper. He just needs to go somewhere where he can be confident. And maybe, back in Spain, I think he could be a really solid keeper. But yeah, his time at Chelsea's done, and it's time to move on. Well, I think I'm going to let you lead this Liverpool section because it's your club, and I've talked enough about Chelsea. I'm just saying, you're the one who knows about Liverpool. Players you're bringing in, players you're linked with, it's all on you. What's playing?
I have no idea why that just started playing. It was okay. But yeah, obviously we'll start with our recent acquisition.
Tsimikas. I think it's Timmy. It's Timmy. Is it Shimis?
Yeah, today he pronounced it, and it starts with a ch. So
Okay,
I'll try my best to say last names. I have no problem embarrassing myself for signing. Shiz
Chimikas?
Tsimikas.
Chimikas?
Tsimikas.
Chimikas.
Yeah, Kostas Tsimikas has come from Olympiacos to us for 11 million euros after Jamal Lewis failed. In my opinion, I like it. I like him a lot more than I like Jamal Lewis. I've watched both their highlights before and after um, the transfers. Even when the Prem was still going on, I heard of him and I was like, wow, he's a very talented wingback. And as for what he brings to the club, over Jamal Lewis, definitely number one, or not number one, but I won't rank them, but we'll say for starters, experience. Tsimikas already has Champions League experience. He has title-winning experience, which can come in handy.
He's impressed against Premier League clubs. I think he had like almost 7 tackles and interceptions per game in his 2 legs against Arsenal, and they won.
Yep. So, and he's played big Premier League teams, which is what I was gonna add as my third. Which is It's not like he's not gonna be used to the physicality of the Premier League. I mean, neither was Jamal Lewis, obviously playing an entire season in there, but he was a part of the team that took down Arsenal in the Europa League. And I really liked his performance during that game. In a sense, he's like Andy Robertson, but I like his attacking presence more. His crossing, Andy Robertson's crossing, they're the same, but Andy Robertson, I can say this as a Liverpool fan. One weakness I see in his game is his weak foot. And in Tsimikas' game, it's the complete opposite. He's not afraid to cut in with his right. He's not afraid to cut in with his left, pinging across his left, right. Andy Robertson, you shut down that left foot of his, and he will most likely turn over the ball. But it doesn't matter because when Andy Robertson turns over the ball, he gets livid and will chase you down the entire pitch to get that ball back and reset. So in a way, we don't really see Andy Robertson get pressed like that because though he is involved in our offense, Trent Alexander-Arnold is usually the one cutting in if he has to, but if not, he will stay out wide.
I know that he can make some good runs into the box. Andy Robertson, he scored a goal in the Champions League this year where he was like in the center of the box when it happened, and he just kind of got a tap in. I know he gets into positions, but yeah, continue.
Pretty much, I just like the deal. We're getting a player who, in my opinion, is better than Jamal Lewis for 12 million less than what Norwich wanted for Jamal Lewis. Obviously, I do believe Jamal Lewis has the better or the higher potential because, obviously younger, he's already a Premier League starter. But Tsimikas, he is a very talented player, and I do believe that he is the one that can be that. Finally, we got a experienced actual left back to cover Andy Robertson and maybe even compete. I believe he will compete because obviously our past left backs have not been experienced with left back. We have Alberto Moreno, who was originally a left mid, Yasir Larouci, who was originally a left mid, even Nico Williams, but he's doing really good at right back and left back, who was originally an attacking midfielder. Sorry, guys, I had some technical difficulties, but we are back on the topic. I believe I was talking about Adam Lewis. Adam Lewis, who was also a midfielder, is playing at left back. And pretty much what I was saying is Tsimikas is going to be our first left back since Andy Robertson, who's actually experienced at playing left back. Not only that, but is a fledged left back.
Moreno
was a left mid.
Well, yeah, but he played left back.
But he was a left mid. Like Moreno, he tried to. Let me not lie. He was a great servant. His first season when he played left wing back and left mid for us, he was excellent. And then we moved to a 4-defender system and tried to play my left back, and mistakes that are coming. It was kind of like, in a sense, like the Alonso errors that are happening at Chelsea. There's a certain position where you play these players, and Moreno and Alonso, they're good at left wing back, but when you move them to left back, it's not like they're absolute shite, but they are prone to more errors. Yeah. So, yeah, that's pretty much what I have to say about Tsimikas.
Kostas Tsimikas, he seems like a baller. I was watching his highlights when Fabrizio announced it, and he seems like a talented player. Might not be as young and have the, single season of Premier League experience that Lewis has, but I think he probably does suit your style of play better than Lewis. He's very offensive minded. We obviously, everybody knows how, um, Liverpool play. They, I can't talk. The wingbacks are extremely offensive minded. They get a lot of assists. They even get on the score sheet. They score goals. I think it suits their style of play with Kostas coming in, and it adds a left-footed left back instead. Obviously James Milner rotating at left back, but he's primarily a right-footed player. Although he is good with his left, but it was a good move, and I think it filled a position in need. And I do believe he can challenge Andy Robertson because, as you said, he does kind of have some strengths in areas that Andy Robertson maybe weak. Yeah.
Now, we move on to the big one. Obviously, everybody has heard this for almost 2 months now. And I think I have my verdict. But I'm going to allow you to go first. Thiago Alcantara, linked with Liverpool. Klopp says he likes him. Thiago said he likes Klopp. Thiago also says he would one day like to work under Klopp. They've been having little chats the same way Werner and Klopp were having little chats. What do you think Liverpool should do on this matter?
Wait. I think that they should do it. It seems like it's an absolute steal. 30 million, if that's the price. I think that they should absolutely go for it. I think that Liverpool do need to shake up the squad a bit. They do need to freshen up the starting 11. Maybe Wijnaldum out, Thiago in. They are different styles of players. Thiago obviously isn't great defensively, but he is maybe not so good. Like marking and tackling all that. But I'm pretty sure his interception numbers are really decent. But he is a very talented player, and while he is pushing 30 years old now, and he does, fight some issues defensively at times, or not. I don't even know what I'm saying. Well, I just know Thiago is an excellent dribbling, very good at passing, extremely good at passing. He's a very creative player, and I think he would find a way to fit into that Liverpool system. Klopp obviously has his plans, and Klopp is a genius, and he knows how to get the best out of his players. And I think Thiago would flourish. And yeah, seeing him in the midfield with Fabinho and Henderson or Naby Keita or Oxlade-Chamberlain, yeah, it would be really exciting to see. And I think it's just what Liverpool need to freshen up the squad. I do think maybe they do need to maybe get one center back, but if they are confident in Matip and Joe Gomez, which Joe Gomez is obviously young, and Matip is experienced and a solid defender, but they both have their injury issues. Maybe getting like a Alyssa Mandy, who has been linked with them, would be a good move. But aside from not talking about them, I think Thiago would be an excellent buy. I think it'd be a really good addition to this Liverpool team. And yeah, I'll let you go on your rant about it.
I ain't got much of a rant. There's not much I can say about Thiago that hasn't been said, but in my personal opinion, what I love about his game is how he unlocks defenses. Like, I watched the Bayern versus Chelsea game, and I was mainly because I wanted to see how Thiago played live. Obviously, highlights say a lot because you're highlighting the aspect of a player, and I wanted to see how he would perform with my own eyes against Chelsea. I was impressed. The passes this dude makes, the vision this guy has. There was one pass which led to a goal. He split the ball through 5 defenders at central defensive midfielder. He pinged it through 5 defenders, and it was just crazy because the way he pinged that ball, you couldn't see it from a fan standpoint. Watching on the television, you couldn't even see who was trying to pass it to. I thought it was a turnover. I just see a player cut right through, passes it, goal. And I'm like, wow, how did he see that? How did he see that? Like, the vision this guy has is crazy. And assist numbers, it may not show it, but the guy's vision within
He's the
the
guy
game,
who makes the pass before the pass every time.
yeah, that's why he's like his numbers. I saw like sometimes I get into debates with Liverpool fans, and they're like, "Why would you do that? Why are we going for a player who didn't register any assists?" But here's the thing: why do we want to keep a player who also didn't register any assists in Ronaldo?
Like him connecting with Bobby Firmino, and Bobby Firmino makes the final pass to Salah or
Exactly.
Mane. Makes sense.
What,
Yeah.
just because a player doesn't get a certain amount of assists doesn't mean that they're not talented. There are certain areas where players flourish. Obviously, I believe Thiago is vision. Wijnaldum, he's a box-to-box midfielder. It's not like we're asking Wijnaldum, hey, you go out there, you get 20 assists a game, or not a game, but a season. He's an engine of a midfielder who can do it all. He can defend. He's physical. He can pass the ball very well. He's good with his feet. Um, and yeah, when it comes to Thiago, I feel like there's a certain vision and passing esque that it just can't be reached by any other. His passing is truly a piece of art. It really is. As Pep Guardiola, one of the, if not the greatest manager right now, has said, his passing is exquisite. It was a delight to watch him play against Chelsea. Though it may have not shown in stats with assists, his passing, his vision is something extraordinary. And I truly believe him pinging a ball to Salah or a ball to Firmino, who then links up with one of the wingers, would be excellent. It would be superb.
Yeah. He's such a creative player, and I know Pep Guardiola absolutely adores him, because when Pep Guardiola left for Bayern, who's the player that he brought with him from Barcelona, he brought Thiago. And I'm pretty sure he tried to bring Thiago with him to Man City, but it didn't work out. And now he's going to be going to their biggest, rival, at least in terms of who's winning games. But yeah, it'd be a really exciting transfer if it were to happen, and for such a good price. Even though he is, pushing 30 now, he's a very talented player. But yeah, is that all we gotta say on Thiago?
That's all I gotta say on Thiago, man. I'm extremely excited to see. Like, if we don't get him, it's fine. That still doesn't change my opinion on what a piece of art that guy's passing you.
Yeah, and his dribbling ability. It's so good at dribbling. He's just like, he's so creative. He can, yeah, he's such a good player. If you guys got him, that would be such a good move.
Yeah. Another thing he's good at is drawing players within the midfield. Usually, he plays defensive midfielder with Bayern, which is, I like to see it, because you would look at a player like him, and you're like, he doesn't play defensive midfielder, but through creativity,
it's like a holding midfield role. It's like Jorginho. He picks out passes and stuff, even though he might be so good defensively. Yeah.
The creativity he brings to that position to open himself up and draw defenders in is something else. I remember I was watching a breakdown analysis of what Thiago does at defensive midfield, and his job, pretty much, because of how good he is at dribbling, he draws a defender in, and in 0.2 seconds, he turns his body, he shifts it, and he's away from two defenders, and he's got openings. He's got his wingers, and he's got a striker running through the middle. And with Bayern's tactics, it works just so well. And I feel like it's something that could work with Liverpool as well, because we've got talented midfielders. I say this time and time again, but what that man brings to Bayern is something truly, like, it's no wonder why everyone at Bayern is like, no, we want you to stay, please. And even though, like, to the common eye, we see, 3 goals and 0 assists, this guy's not anything. But if you're a Bayern fan, if you're a Thiago fan, if you've seen the guy play, like, stats, to me, stats don't mean anything. Stats do not determine how good a player is. They help factor opinions. But when you watch Thiago play, you would think, wow, this guy is incredible. He truly is. And that's pretty much, that's what I gotta say about my secret admiration for Thiago.
Yeah, he's such a good player. And just the price is what astounds me. But me being a rival fan, I would think it would be pretty funny if like PSG hijacked it at last minute. But yeah, um, but I do hope you guys get him because he's a baller and he would benefit your squad 100%. And I think he'd freshen up your squad in the right ways. And thinking about it now, like although he isn't a good, he might not be so good defensively, he might not be great at tackling, marking. He gets his interceptions. He's good, positionally. I could see him, if Liverpool did change up the way they play a little bit as, like a holding midfielder, playing balls to, Naby Keita and Henderson, as number 8s. And then, Fabinho moving back to center back maybe. I know I was kind of like against that last time we talked about it, but if they did change up the way they played, I could see it work. Because obviously Thiago isn't going to be dropping between the defenders like Fabinho does, but they would have to switch up some stuff. But, yeah. Any other, Liverpool stuffs?
There is the attacking depth problem at Liverpool. Obviously, I have some very strong opinions about this, but I debate with people. They think differently. But we want wingers. Obviously, we need depth. Shaqiri looks like he's on his way out. Harry Wilson looks like he's on his way out because he wants first team minutes. Yeah, we can promise it, but it's not the first team minutes he's looking for. He wants a day in, day out. But when you got Salah, Mane, Firmino, it's highly unlikely. And so we've been linked with Sarr from Watford. We've been linked with Teles Magno from Vasco da Gama. I've been watching them a lot. And I don't know. Here's what's my hot take. They're both talented players, but I haven't seen enough from Teles Magno to say we should buy him for 20 million, and I haven't seen enough from Sarr to say that we should buy him for 40 million because there would be great depth options. Who they're prospects. They're talented too, but they're raw at the moment. They just need a few years to cement their game. But what my hot take is I don't really want to buy a new winger. I want to see more of Harvey Elliott because this season, oh my God, that kid, he's special.
And Minamino who can play anywhere up front.
Well, that's my other hot take. I like Minamino. Minamino suits more of a role like Firmino for me, just a little more pace. Like when you look at Minamino or Firmino, you're not like, oh yeah, that's a striker. Like to me, Minamino is a false nine. Like he's someone who pinpoints passes. He's someone who uses his dribbling well. But yeah, he can play that right side because obviously he's very pacey.
Play left a little bit too.
And another thing, I want to rely on the players we have. So obviously we got Brewster coming back in from loan. I don't want to buy anyone in attack because I want to see how Brewster plays at Liverpool. I've been so excited seeing him at Swansea. Like I really hope that guy gets minutes. He's so talented. He went on loan in January.
Yeah, I saw that one crazy goal he scored. But yeah, continue.
Yeah, I know I've said this a lot, but my hot take for Liverpool is I just want us to rely on youth when it comes to certain things. Obviously, we've seen how that worked out with Curtis Jones, Nico Williams, and now Harvey Elliott. And I think people are starting to be more aware that, we got some talented youth prospects coming up. And honestly, I think now is the time, a make or break time for players like Brewster. Because these youth players are players that want to play for Liverpool, but if they have to leave, they have to leave. They don't want to, but if they have to for the better of their career. And I feel like this is Brewster's last, let me not say his last chance because he's proven himself. In my opinion, he's proven himself. This is Brewster's last thought process to see, okay, do I have a place in this roster or not? Same defensively, Kijan are over, Seb Vandenberg. I want to rely on them instead of buying a new player.
I'm sorry. I'm looking at Ryan Brewster's transfer market, and his citizenship is English and Turkish.
Wow.
He's
I did not know that. I
okay,
did not
well,
know that.
continue. Okay,
Oh,
continue.
we got a little English Turkish man on us, but yeah, pretty much. I just want us to. I want Liverpool to rely more on their youth because uh I might be a little biased because as a youth player myself, I would want to rely on youth, but like these are talented players, and I feel like we should give them a chance this season as Premier League champions. This is a time where we should give them chances. If not, then we can bring in some sporadic players. We can bring in Mandy, as you said, as our fourth string center back. We can bring in maybe Harvey Barnes, but he would want minutes at left wing. We could bring in Magno. But there's a motto that Liverpool fans live by. We don't buy superstars, we make them. And we've got
Mhm.
some upcoming superstars.
It's real quick. It's crazy how many really good players have left Chelsea's academy. Because Ryan Brewster's, he was from our under 14s, I'm pretty sure. That's when
Yep.
he left. Eddie Nketiah is a Chelsea product. Obviously, we released Declan Rice. It's crazy, man. But yeah, continue.
That's pretty much what I have to say. I like to rely on youth. Obviously, I'm not opposed to bringing in rotational players, but with the ones I've seen so far, I think we'd be best relying on our youth.
Hmm. Yeah, I think Ryan Brewster's super talented. He, in 7 appearances for Swansea in the league, he had 4 goals and an assist. So 5 goal contributions in 7 appearances, and you literally just arrived at the club. It's pretty damn decent. I would like to see him get some more minutes, especially if Divock Origi is to leave. But yeah, you got anything else to talk about?
Not much. I mean, Liverpool. There's not much that can be said about Liverpool except this is a message to all Liverpool fans expecting big transfers. It's not happening. Come on, we're Premier League champions. Like I said, we make superstars. We don't buy them. Anyone that you see above 40 million and up, we're not getting. Thiago is an only exception because that is a player who you cannot pass up on. But Sar, you can forget about that. You, but Koulibaly as well, you can forget about it. We can dream about it, and it would help us to have a great partner with Van Dijk, but you can forget about that. I think our squad is strong. One thing I One thing that I can say that we should be talking about at Liverpool is contract extension of Gini Wijnaldum, which is
Yeah,
what
like a
sparked these rumors. Yeah, man. Gini, again, is a machine, as you said. But contract ends in less than a year. We haven't heard anything about opening talks. Um, both player and manager want him to stay, but nothing is opening up. We might let him go on a free. Um, but yeah, it's very. That's why I'm so interested in Thiago, because if we get Thiago, I feel like Wijnaldum will be on his way out, which would suck because he's been a loyal, great servant for the club. And I really like Wijnaldum. I like his game ever since he came from. Even when he was at Newcastle and PSV, I knew him little, but I still paid attention. And at Newcastle, him and Sissoko on the right side, I was like, this guy, he's something. And when he came to Liverpool, I was like, maybe he'll play on the wing. And I saw him play at a little bit at attacking mid, and then Klopp was like, you know what, central mid. And I was like, I'm not sure about that. And he's turned out wonderful. And I'm so glad he's proved me wrong. And it would be, like I said, it would suck to lose such a player like him. But I think it's not anything to be worried about, because obviously, as a fan, I want what's best for the club, but a certain part of me also wants what's best for the player.
with
So with Wijnaldum, if he thinks his time is up, and if the club thinks his time is up, there's not much I can say apart. Like, there's not many bad things I can say. Like, if I really tried to pick, I could be like, oh, you cost us that one game. But out of one game, out of the multiple he's played for our club, essential. Not just the Barcelona game, but so many others. The only thing I can say is thank you, and I wish you the best. But I hope that I don't have to ever say that, because I do want him to stay at Liverpool for a long time.
if Wijnaldum does leave and Thiago does come in, Thiago is obviously a little bit older. I do see it making a pathway for Curtis Jones into the starting 11 a little bit quicker. Yeah, I think he could break in a bit sooner if Thiago was to replace Wijnaldum. But yeah,
That's our other thing. A lot of people are saying, "Oh, we bring in Thiago, we're definitely keeping Wijnaldum," but we've got 6 players already, or sorry, 7. Now that Curtis Jones he's pretty much put himself in the first team roster, like already. Like I don't see that guy getting dropped to play Premier League 2 anymore. Like he's proven himself, he's ready. Um, so yeah, Klopp has a lot on his mind with 7 midfielders to rotate. I don't think adding an 8th is going to make his job any easier, and it's not going to add anything to our club. One place we're really strong at is midfield. So if a midfielder goes, then that's the only way we're bringing in a midfielder, which is why I say Thiago is a maybe. If Ronaldo stays, I truly just want to hear his stance because both players, staff, and manager, they're not saying much about it that can convince me. I don't know. It actually does look like a high possibility that he leaves, but there's also a high possibility he stays because of how connected he is with the Liverpool fans, and how he takes time out of his day, even though he has a wife and children. He takes time out of his days to respond to fans, even talk to fans. And so I'm just, it's not anything to worry about. But for me, like personally, with the personal love I have for these players, I do feel a little bit worried because I do want to see them stick out, play at this club. But if it's what's best for their career and what's best for the club, I guess it has to be done. But that's pretty much all I have to say about Ronaldo. I'm not hearing much about it. I'm not hearing if contracts are up or down. We're gonna let him go on a free. We're gonna let him, sell him. But yeah, that is something I would like to know as a Liverpool fan.
if
The status of
plan
Ronaldo.
leave, they should just try to sell him this summer, just get them some money for him. Yeah, that's my take on it. Is that you done with your Liverpool
That is my
chat?
spiel on Liverpool chat.
Well, I think that we should just save transfer rumors for next week because we've gone on a bit long. But yeah, I think that's a good place to end the episode. We've talked about our clubs respectively. I think that's a good place to cut it. So with that said, we will try to get these out once a week. We actually recorded one a couple weeks ago, but Chardell never edited it.
I got it on my table.
I will try to remind him more so or not remind him, but I'll try to get the schedule going once a week. Get these out more. So if you enjoyed, press that like button, and if you want to see more, subscribe. If you have any constructive criticism, I suppose, put it in the comments. Let us know what we can do better, and we hope you enjoyed. So with that said, we'll see you next week.